Welcome to Behind the Catch Fence. I'm your host, David Hoffman. Man, it's hard to believe the racing season is nearing its conclusion here pretty soon. I don't know if I'm ready for it. I know you guys aren't ready for it either, but we're going to power through. And to help with that, we got a fresh interview for you guys today. Now, last year's FIA European Top Fuel champion Ida Zetterström joins us today. We're talking all about her transition over to NHRA drag racing, how it differs from racing over in Europe, and much more. So with that, go grab yourself a snack, put your feet up, and enjoy this episode with Ida Zetterström. Only 3 races into your official career in NHRA. This on the driving side of things. What do you feel has stuck out to you the most about NHRA? Whether it's the fans, the just what it takes to be successful. What's sort of stuck out with you so far?
Well, I mean, I've been at the track now for the whole season, so even without me being into the car, I did feel like I had quite a good idea of what to expect going into it, which I think helped instead of just coming over and jumping straight into it. But obviously, I mean, just the fact that it's so tight, like the racing is so tight, it's hard to even qualify on every event. Obviously we have big crowds and fans are fantastic, but we do have that in Europe too. So I've been at racing at many events over in Europe with huge crowds and great fans, so that hasn't been as big of a change for me, so to say. It's more, going into every race knowing that you really, really need to step up your A game on every run to be able to qualify well and have a good chance on race day. Not taking anything away from Europe. Obviously, we have great drivers there and it's great racing, but many of the times we can see a team struggling for 4 runs in qualifying and barely get down track, but they still can pull it off on race day just because you didn't actually have to qualify with the fields we've had the last couple of years. While over here, if you mess up on qualifying, you won't even have a chance to step on the pedal on race day. So that is obviously a big difference. And then, I mean, it's really cool to see like the small margins, like just running, me running, for example, a tied time with my European record is putting me on like a 12th to 14th qualifying position in the ladder over here, which just means that the level of competition is definitely higher over here, which was something obviously we know this is where the sport is the absolute best. And more races every year definitely helps with getting more seat time for the drivers, more data for the crew chiefs, and just to try out more things. Basically, we are still treating basically every race as like a test session, since we're not in the hunt for a championship. So we still have the opportunity to try things and try to find what really works for our team going into next year.
You kind of mentioned the start of having to be on the sidelines and just kind of watch everything, your team and everything else. How hard were those first few months? Because I'm sure as a driver, that mentality is, I want to be out there. I want to not be
Yeah.
behind the tree. I want to be at the tree trying to do my best.
Yeah, I mean, I will have to say, like, the first couple of months were actually really hard because, like, coming over and also seeing that, you know, it felt like my car was sitting there, but also it wasn't ready. So it wasn't like we could have just loaded up and gone racing. But just knowing basically, like, you were at every race where everybody else was racing. I know even when we headed out to the pro event before NHRA started and we were in February, and I felt like I was the only one not racing. I felt like you stood at the sidelines, and everybody always came up and asked me, when are you racing? When are you racing? And we knew when we were racing, but we hadn't announced the schedule yet, which made it even harder because you kind of had to be vague about it and be like, we always said, late summer debut, but we hadn't like specified it. I think the hardest part for me was too that we had a few scheduled test sessions in the beginning of the year that got canceled for different reasons. One was something with NHRA rules. You had to have been entered for the race to be able to take part in the test session. So we missed one there. And then it rained for another test session. So we ran out on that. It was just, when you're standing there and you're so ready to get into the car and then it doesn't happen, like that was very hard. I will say that, like, the more time that passed by, it became easier because instead of standing there and being stressed basically about not being in the car. I tried to be like, okay, there's still a lot of races to go before I get in the car. I can't have this feeling going into every event. You have to try and make the most out of it. So I definitely try to, take my time with the team and with all our routines there, and like taking care of our sponsors and like making the most out of all those events. But I found myself, liking the part of being in the shop more than being at the track when I was out of the car, just because when we were in the shop and building my car, we were, working on my stuff and, building everything up to what was to come for me. Instead of every time I was at the track, I felt more like people saw me as being there for sharing on Tony. Well, so that was kind of it was kind of a switch. Like I started enjoying more, being there working with our team, building that up and seeing everything happening, because it was very soothing to kind of see everything come together and like see how it grew, and also knowing that, it's not ready yet. Like I think if it would have sat there and been ready, and it would have been like a financial issue or something, I would have stressed more about it, because I would have known that like we could potentially take this and just go to the race. But knowing that, we're still waiting on parts, we still had things to build, there were still, a lot of things coming together, made it feel a lot easier to wait for it, so to say.
You mentioned with kind of being with the team, watching it kind of be built from the ground up. This,
Yep.
from your perspective, being able to watch that, watch your team being built just with the individuals that work on the car and then the car itself, just how would you describe those months of getting everything prepared and making sure that you have all the top equipment, you have everything that you guys need to go and be successful for this last run and then going into next year?
I mean, I'm really happy I've been able to be a part of it, because for one, to see it, see it being built up, it's something that, um, it feels really good for me to kind of see everything, just everything coming together, but also like the way we've been doing it. I feel like we've been really doing it right. We haven't, um, we have taken our time with what we need and like made sure everything is really good and like all that. But also that I've been able to have input and things to say on certain things, like it might be, design of the car or whatever we're doing, also makes me feel more involved with everything, obviously. And I mean, having ran race teams ourselves back in Europe, it is something that I feel like I'm used to being part of the build up process. When we started racing bikes, for example, we built that up all by ourselves. We built everything from the car and the team, everything. This felt very, very much like that. We got a chance to be part of it from the beginning, and I think you enjoy it more when you do see it, come together like that and build up, and not just fly over when everything is ready and jump in the car and start from there. So I do think that that helps in some regard, because it just feels like you have more involvement in it.
And kind of be more behind the scenes. Obviously, your teammates with Tony Schumacher and his legacy and resume in motorsports is well documented.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just what does having him as a teammate bring? How does he helped you during this time frame? Whether it's just advice or just like how has he kind of helped you throughout this whole process?
Well, I mean, I see Tony when we're at the track, since Tony lives in Texas. He's not in the shop, so with the build up process of my team, um, he hasn't been involved in that basically. But for me, it's more been at the track, seeing him race and being able to ask him about your stuff, like, hey, is this a long track? How does this feel? Does it have any specific, small elevations, or things to think about, or whatever it might be, since he has raced on all the tracks for so many times. So it's been obviously a lot of that. And then I think just we have different personalities and different way of racing, but sometimes that is very good when it comes to race day, because we have like different ways of getting focused, and like different ways of kind of getting prepared for the day. And sometimes it's just good, getting that break from your own routine, so to say, and kind of just break it off. But honestly, now when we're both racing, we don't see a lot of each other, because we are on different sides of the trailers, and the race days are so hectic, so it's not like we have a lot of time together. So I think that the time while I wasn't racing was definitely the time that we were able to build up a relationship as teammates, and I was able to watch him do what he's the best at, and take from that.
Yeah, and going forward, just for the rest of this season, got a couple races left. Obviously, the countdown has been going on. This last week started. It's just as for you, what areas do you feel that you want to improve on the most as you finish off this year and kind of help get like a good springboard going into next year?
I mean, we're working a lot on finding consistency and, making sure that we have a car that can really run with the top teams out here. Doing so, we didn't have a whole lot of testing going into this. We had less than 10 runs on the car and only one full pass going into Brainerd. We have been changing things in the car almost every event since then. And sometimes it's small things that doesn't make a big difference for me as a driver, but it might improve on the car's performance. But we have made some bigger differences that have made the car feel different for me to drive, which is something that I've been working on. I felt very confident in the beginning of the year with my reaction times and just everything like that when we came out of the gate in Brainerd, but there were other things that didn't really feel right in the car, and when we fixed those issues, it instead infected on my reaction times. So I've been struggling with that for the last two races, trying to get back to where I know I can be and I should be. So that is definitely something that I'm working on improving for this year. I want to feel that I'm back where I know I can be, where I am consistently good on the tree, and that I know, you can step it up a little bit when you need to. Usually you don't have your best reaction times in the qualifying because you don't have the same, there's not as much on the line, so to say, but you still have good reaction times, and then that when race day comes, you're gonna step it up and you're gonna be better than that. So I just want to find my way back to that, basically. So for me as a driver, that's what I'm working the most on right now. And for us as a team, we're working on finding a way where we can run consistently quick. I mean, the last event we ran the third quickest of the run in the fourth qualifier, and then we ran the second quickest of the session in the first elimination run, and we want to continue to run those times and be on that level with the rest of the competition, but also be able to push a little more when the conditions are great, so that we can actually get those top half qualifying positions, but also keeping parts together, parts looking good, so that the guys servicing, because we have a smaller team than anybody else basically out here, so that they, the workload on them is still doable, so to say. So that's basically what we're trying to do right now. I would like to see us consistently qualifying in the top half. That's something that we're definitely working towards.
Well, Ida, that's all the questions I have. I just want to thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
It's one thing I'm never gonna bet against you in the bracket bonanza stuff because I did the in Brainerd, totally backfired. So I'm not gonna do that again. So hopefully the rest of the season goes well, and maybe you'll get a Wally by the end of the year.
Actually, they came up to me from NHRA when we were gonna go up on stage, me and Langdon, and just do our intro before the race day, and they came up and they said, "You're the third most better driver to win this event." And I looked at them and I was like, why? Like, we haven't qualified that well. Like, we were 12th and so on. But I think people are seeing that we're making improvements all the time. And I think just, even though we might have not have had those top half qualifying positions, just showing that like we can run with the rest under tough conditions, I think that makes people understand that we can be someone to count on. So that's definitely cool. I did not win on Sunday, that one, but hopefully we will win on a Sunday this year. So.
That's the ultimate goal. Well, hopefully that does happen, and yeah, good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for watching our interview with Ida Zetterström. Now, to be honest, I never had a clue they had drag racing over in Europe until Ida came over at NHRA, so it was interesting to hear how she's had to adjust to a new series, new country, and everything in between. I mean, she certainly made her presence felt in her first start by knocking out Steve Torrance there at Brainerd in the first round. I think that was back in August. Now, I'm sure the rest of the year will be a bit of a learning curve, but I really wouldn't be surprised if she came out next year, snagged a win or two, and really impressed a lot of people. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. We appreciate everyone's support of the show. It's been so cool to see the outreach that you guys have had. I mean, we've officially hit 800 subscribers, so that's a pretty cool to see the growth over the past year. Now, why don't we go get 1,000? If you enjoy exclusive interviews, race coverage, and behind the scenes of all things racing, subscribe and you won't be disappointed. Make sure to also check us out on X and Instagram at Behind Catch as well. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Go enjoy some racing, and I'll catch you guys later.